Starfield, Mortal Kombat 1, Payday 3, Lords of the Fallen, and plenty more are just around the corner. How would you like to get them for 17% off with no strings attached? That's exactly what you can do thanks to this video's sponsor, Green Man Gaming, so click the link below to start saving or stick around to the end of the video to learn more. I will now gush for 10 minutes about Space Marine 2. Let's begin. God damn, man, this is some good shit right here, let me tell you. I was invited to go hands-on with this. Focus Home Interactive are hosting hands-on sessions for this at Gamescom, but Australia is a long, long way from Germany, so Focus were kind enough to send me the build so I could play it at home. I have Space Marine 2 installed on my PC right now, or at least one level of it, but believe me, that was more than enough to get me very pumped for this. This demo was one level which I played through a few times. It runs for about an hour or so, which is a lot longer than I expected actually. I did play it on PC using a keyboard and mouse, and I was not able to play co-op, which this game does support. I was playing solo the entire time, but that was more than fine. Also, you should know that this footage you're seeing here is not my recorded footage, it is provided B-roll. I feel it is important to present one's credentials whenever discussing Warhammer, since there's a lot to know about this franchise and a lot of different entry points to it. I would characterize myself as a fledgling fan. A few games under my belt now, a few books as well, each new touch point deepening my connection to a universe that seems infinite in its lore and timeless in its appeal. Big standouts for me included the Gaunt's Ghost series of books, love them. Warhammer 40k Darktide, which has a lot of problems to this day, but is still incredible from an immersion perspective, and the recent boomer shooter Boltgun, which just is straight up awesome, and if you haven't played that, then please go do so now, it's fantastic. One of the things that appealed to me about that game was the power fantasy of being an ultramarine, this armored tank of a man, if indeed you could still be called a man after all the transfiguration and training you've been put through. You are a demigod of destruction at this point, the tip of the Emperor's spear, dispatched to the furthest reaches of his empire to guarantee his peace or his conquests. And that brings us to Space Marine 2. Captain Titus is back, only this time it's not filthy orcs he's fighting, but the Tyranids, a race of xenomorph-like aliens who are essentially a hive mind-like plague, sweeping across planets like locusts, devouring everything in their path. The mission I played was on one such planet, overrun by Tyranids, the Emperor's forces on their heels and their last legs, desperate for something that might turn the odds. That something is you, and it is so fucking cool to land on this planet and everything makes you feel like you were this badass hero on your way to face down impossible odds and win. Like infantry, for example, will kneel as you pass by them on your way towards the front, because Space Marines are revered as divine beings by some of the Emperor's subjects, and this game captures that. You see the infantry around you dug in, cowering behind sandbags and dugouts, a torrent of enemy forces approaching. You can hear the fear in the infantry's voices ring out, and you just walk straight past all that, you jump over the fortifications, you stand out right in the middle of no man's land, and you just get to work. It's like that scene in Doom Eternal where the Doomslayer is walking through the facility and all the science nerds are just kind of watching him in awe, which was actually based on the scene from RoboCop where the police stations see RoboCop for the first time. That feeling of like, I'm a motherfucking ultramarine. This game serves that feeling up in the first 30 seconds of being on the battlefield, and it never stops after that.
There they are, the orbital gun. Do not relent in your attacks!
Stepping onto that battlefield is an overawing experience. The original Space Marine was made by Relic Entertainment, but this one is being made by Saber Interactive, who have done a bunch of stuff in the past, including World War Z. This is running in that same engine, an engine capable of rendering hundreds or thousands of units on screen at any time, and the engine is absolutely rendering hundreds or thousands of units here in Space Marine 2. The opening sequence is set in a muddy battlefield, and in the distance you can see the enemy cascading down towards you in the distance like some sort of chitinous landslide. In this early part of the mission, you're only ever squaring off against a few dozen Tyranids at a time, but later on, as you move to a different area, you'll have to defend a facility where the enemy is pressing down on you. You're perched up high, and the Tyranids are so numerous that they are climbing over each other to create these giant flesh towers, just like in World War Z. It was an inspired choice to combine this tech with this setting, and and the sheer number of enemies on screen absolutely sells the central conceit of most 40k conflicts, that of scale, that of attrition, and that of an enemy so numerous and so unending that every victory seems fleeting and temporary. And that's just the enemy count, mind you. Separate from that, this game looks awesome. Plenty of detail in the environments, great lighting effects in internal spaces, fantastic art design that really brings this universe to life. The scale of these levels, though, is crazy. The number of enemies on screen and the attention to detail really make this feel like a fascinating companion piece to Warhammer 40k Darktide. No other game has captured the aesthetic of the 40k universe better than Darktide. Even now, I still log into that game from time to time just to feel that world. And I don't think any developer could have nailed it as well as Fatshark did, but I think Saber Interactive might have done it, though in a completely different way. Darktide is narrow and cloistered and often claustrophobic. Its zombie hordes seem endlessly numerous, but it's rare that you get the chance to see all of them at once. You are at war in Darktide, but it's not that continental Napoleonic style war that so much of the tabletop is based on. Space Marine 2 is that. There are front lines and trenches and mud and no man's land, and tanks will roll in alongside you as you make your advance. The sky is above you, bombers strafing the enemy lines to thin their numbers. This is a whole other side of the 40k fantasy, and Space Marine 2 is just absolutely nailing it. I cannot wait to see what these other locations look like, because if they are half as impressive as this, then they're going to make 40k fans very, very happy indeed. Space Marine 2 has a beautiful simplicity to it that feels pitch perfect in this modern era of coloured loot drops and progression upgrade systems and collect 50 different currencies to increase your bolt gun damage by 3, etc. You are an Ultramarine, you are already perfect. The weapons you pick up from the ground are more than enough to make do, so you pick up the nearest bolt gun you can find, you use it until it runs out of ammo, and then you pick up the next weapon that has bullets in it, rinse and repeat until every Tyranid is dead. If it sounds overly simplistic, it's because that description alone doesn't convey just how fun it is to mow through hundreds or thousands of the enemy as they team about you, or the thrill of pulling out your chainsaw when you're surrounded, or just how satisfying it is to position yourself on the high ground and empty an entire drum of heavy bolter ammo into an enemy throng. It's catharsis that gets the job done here, not weapon mods that reduce heavy bolter recoil by 5% or 7% for the epic purple variant. It's a straight up co-op shooter that has a lot of Xbox 360 energy in terms of how it plays. In my hour-long mission, I spent about 25 minutes shooting guns, 25 minutes swinging my melee weapons, and the other 10 minutes was moving from place to place, story beats and dialogue seamlessly woven into events as I did so. It is simple, but it is a very good time. Part of the thrill comes from just how well Saber have nailed the fundamentals of both melee and range combat. On the range side, I got to try out about 5 weapons, different variations of the bolt gun, as well as a melter gun, which is a sort of grenade launcher. No matter what I picked up, it felt good with excellent sound design, recoil, feedback, and usability. Having said that, ranged weapons aren't the primary tool here, I'd say. They will break through your line of fire, and at that moment it's down to your melee weapons to begin the cleanup job. Much like the rest of the game, it is simple. One melee attack button that can be chained together to form some flowing combos. Your basic attacks will do more than enough damage to cleave straight through lesser enemies, but the larger Tyranids require a lot more focus and strategy. And this is where the most important part of the game comes in, I think. Dodging, parrying, crowd control, and armor management. See, this is a simple game, but it's absolutely not easy. There are 4 difficulties, and I played through the 3rd hardest, which Saber tagged as the intended difficulty. I died a lot at first, my health chipped away by smaller foes, while larger foes can take big chunks out of you if you aren't paying attention. Again, I can't rely on just killing everything before it gets to me because there's just too much to kill, so instead it becomes vital to dodge enemy attacks, reposition smartly to clear my flanks. I also needed to catch lesser enemies as they lunged at me, as doing so would instantly execute them. The main focus, though, is on the bigger enemies, who can make themselves invulnerable when they have their guard up. They will advance towards you in this stance, and at that point you have to wait for them to attack so you can parry them, opening them up to a devastating counter which might set up for an execute finish. When you do this, it will actually restore some of your armor, which is actually called contempt, because Warhammer is so metal that the Emperor's forces are strengthened by their contempt for the enemy. Managing this armor is crucial because health packs are very scarce, so unless you're prioritizing those bigger targets and bringing them down cleanly, you can quickly find your health bar exposed and things really turn on a dime there. I found this so engaging, to be honest with you, and that's one thing that I don't think this footage will show you. You might look and think, oh well, that looks kind of mindless, doesn't it? Just shoot thousands of aliens as an invincible ultramarine. But you are not invincible, and this is not mindless. It's got great moment-to-moment bones in its weapon feel, in its melee animations, in its strategic resource management, and with its focus on battle sense. And that's what it really manages to nail. You start to feel an innate sense of the flow of the battle, just as an ultramarine would. You dodge and parry and reposition and prioritize targets, and you know when to press the advantage and when to fall back and regroup. You just start to feel it in your jellies, and any game that can create that sort of feeling is absolutely onto a good thing. So, when do you get to play this bad boy? Hell if I know, but it's not anytime soon. Focus have not set a date for this one yet, and when I spoke to the PR rep, they did indicate that it was still some time out. That's why it didn't run particularly well on my PC, an RTX 4090, but I'm not remotely bothered about that at this point since this game is nowhere near the optimization phase of development and there's plenty of time to get all that nailed down before launch. Outside of that, I'll make the point that we've only seen one part of what this game has to offer, which is essentially single-player campaign since the co-op was disabled in this build. You will be able to play with up to 2 of your mates co-op in the final version, so we'll have to see what impact that has on things like enemy health and density, AI behavior, etc. That stuff can get a little funky in co-op shooters, so we'll need to see how all of that is dialed in. The other thing there's likely to be is at least one other game mode at launch. What I played through here was just the campaign, but the original game also had a co-op horde mode in it. The developers haven't said that a horde mode is coming to Space Marine 2, but they also haven't ruled it out either. They also haven't ruled out PvP, but I think that's a lot less likely. So yeah, I think it's pretty safe to assume that we're going to get more than just a co-op campaign, but that is definitely not confirmed. If we don't get anything else, chances are I'm still going to be pretty happy with Space Marine 2. Sometimes you play a demo and you're like, yeah, okay, cool, not bad, good stuff, keep it up. But sometimes you play a demo and you're like, oh yeah man, this is it right here. Space Marine 2 was definitely one of those moments. I was just sold from the moment I touched down on the front and saw the scale, the attention to detail, the commitment to the lore, the realization of this power fantasy, the crunch of the enemy carapaces as I slung them over my shoulder and pile drive them into the mud. It was just cool, man. It was a damn cool time, and I'm super keen to play more, and I'm actually now going to go play some Darktide just to kind of scratch the itch while I wait. I will review Space Marine 2 when it's out next year. For now, thank you very much for watching. Like and subscribe, all that good stuff. And don't forget to stick around to learn how you can get a nice discount on some of the biggest games releasing this year, thanks to this video's sponsor, Green Man Gaming. Have you stepped back and seen just how many massive titles are releasing in the next few weeks alone? Starfield is like next week, after that comes Mortal Kombat 1, Lies of P is around the same time, then Payday 3, Lords of the Fallen soon after that, City Skylines 2, and so much more. How are we supposed to be able to afford all of these video games? Well, it's not easy, but there is something that might help, and it's this video's sponsor, Green Man Gaming. They are offering a 17% discount off every title I just listed, no strings attached, just a straight up 17% discount on some of the biggest and best games of the year. If you haven't heard of Green Man Gaming before, then you have been missing out. I've been buying stuff from them for years because they always offer excellent prices on PC titles, but they're not a grey market key reseller. Every single key they sell has been sourced directly from the publisher themselves. There are no scammy stolen keys that end up getting cancelled weeks or months after you bought them. It's 100% legit, all the money goes directly to the publisher and all the savings go directly to you. Green Man Gaming has always been one of the best places to pick up new release PC games because they're just cheaper almost every time. It's the same Steam key you'd buy from Valve. You plug it straight into Steam and it appears in your Steam library. It's just like 10 or 15 or 17% cheaper when you buy from Green Man Gaming. In addition to all of those imminently releasing heavy hitters I mentioned earlier, Green Man Gaming also just added Destiny 2, the Final Shape expansion, to their catalog as well, allowing you to get that for up to 20% off depending on which region you might be in. That Final Shape discount is only available until the 25th of August though, so be sure to get in very quick on that one. That is not all though. Green Man Gaming have a catalog of over 9,000 games and they regularly host flash sales or spot discounts, meaning it's always a good idea to check back regularly to scoop up a nice deal. The discounts don't stop there either. Every time you spend at Green Man Gaming, you earn XP points, which as you collect, grant you access to their exclusive loyalty program. Here you'll find even lower prices, so if you've spent with Green Man Gaming in the past, you could probably take advantage of these even bigger savings right now. Over 6 million gamers have purchased from Green Man Gaming over the years. That's a lot of happy customers who've all saved plenty of dosh thanks to Green Man Gaming savings. 2023 is a banger year for video games, and the second half is looking just as strong as the first. So if you want to grab new releases like Starfield, Mortal Kombat 1, Lords of the Fallen, or Payday 3 while getting up to 17% off, then click the link below and use offer code SKILLUP17 at checkout. That's offer code SKILLUP17 at checkout for a 17% discount. Some exclusions, terms and conditions apply. Thanks Green Man Gaming for sponsoring the video, and thank you for watching it.